Every day you are being outsmarted and you don't even notice it. At work, in friendships, in love, there are people silently playing games with your mind, bending your choices without you realizing. The ones you call geniuses are simply masters of manipulation. They know laws that most people will never see because these laws are too dark, too dangerous, and too effective. Today, I will rip the mask off and show you the 15 darkest laws of power, the same weapons that geniuses use to win while everyone else loses. These people don't waste energy on luck, talent, or empty hard work. They operate with precision. Every move they make is deliberate, designed to keep them 3 steps ahead while everyone else stumbles blindly. A smile, a compliment, even silence itself. Nothing is accidental. It's all calculated leverage. And while the masses cling to fantasies of fairness and honesty, the true genius uses those illusions as weapons to climb higher. Understand this. Power is not fate. Power is built. It is engineered through strategy, discipline, and ruthless execution. Those who hold it are not chosen. They choose themselves. They see weakness as opportunity. They bend perception until reality favors them. And they turn rivals, allies, even friends into tools for their ascent. If you're still waiting for the world to reward your effort, you've already lost. Power doesn't come to the deserving, it comes to the dangerous. Today I will expose the blueprint, the 15 darkest laws of power, the very codes that predators live by while the rest of the world plays dead. The first lesson Machiavelli teaches us is simple but deadly. Never reveal your true plans. Power moves in shadows, and the moment someone knows your intentions, they gain the power to stop, betray, or destroy you. Julius Caesar, for all his brilliance, trusted Brutus and shared too much of his ambition. He paid for it with his life on the Ides of March. His transparency became his undoing. Contrast that with Napoleon Bonaparte, who built empires by mastering deception. He feigned weakness, misled enemies, and struck only when his opponents were unprepared. Otto von Bismarck manipulated the European stage with the same principle. He misdirected allies and opponents alike, revealing nothing until victory was certain. Even in modern times, leaders like Steve Jobs concealed their products and strategies until the moment of impact, leaving competitors scrambling to catch up. The lesson is clear. Ordinary people overshare, geniuses mislead, predictability is weakness, concealment is power. When no one can read you, you become untouchable. And in the world of strategy and influence, untouchable is everything. Half measures are fatal in the pursuit of power. A rival left alive will always return, fueled by revenge or ambition. History is full of leaders who underestimated this principle and paid dearly. Alexander the Great did not merely defeat his enemies. He destroyed their armies, eliminated their leaders, and secured complete control over conquered territories. By removing any possibility of resurgence, he made rebellion impossible and secured his dominance. The Roman dictator Sulla applied the same ruthlessness. After defeating his opponents in civil war, he purged all remaining rivals, leaving no one who could threaten his authority. Kings and queens across Europe also understood that leniency invites conspiracies. A spared enemy is always a danger in disguise. This principle extends beyond armies and thrones. Any competitor left unchecked becomes a persistent threat. Any adversary underestimated can strike when least expected. Power is maintained not through mercy but through decisive total action. Hesitation allows rebellion. Completeness enforces obedience. Eliminating threats entirely is not cruelty, it is strategy. And in the game of influence, strategy determines survival. True power rarely comes from brute force alone. Its foundation lies in control, and the most effective way to control others is to make them dependent on you. When people rely on you for survival, success, or influence, they are no longer free to act against you. Their ambitions, fears, and choices become aligned with your will. Cardinal Richelieu of France mastered this principle. He structured the court so that the nobility's wealth, influence, and political survival depended entirely on his favor. Any attempt to act independently or challenge him would immediately threaten their standing, forcing compliance. Similarly, the Medici family controlled Florence for generations by weaving networks of dependency. Alliances, finances, and positions of influence were all tied to their support. No one could rise without their consent. Dependency transforms potential rivals into silent allies. A general, governor, or official who relies on your resources or guidance will rarely betray you because doing so endangers their own survival. It also neutralizes jealousy and ambition. The more someone needs you, the less likely they are to oppose you, even when resentment simmers beneath the surface. This principle works in subtle ways as well. Strategic favors, selective support, and carefully placed opportunities create invisible chains. People act as though they are free, but in reality, their choices increasingly serve your purpose. Over time, this dependency builds a fortress of influence around you, one that cannot be breached without immense risk to anyone who would challenge it. Control through dependence is a quiet, invisible form of dominance. Unlike open aggression, it leaves no scars, invites loyalty, and ensures that power remains firmly in your hands. Those who fail to create dependence are left vulnerable, their influence temporary, and their enemies ever ready to strike. Power is amplified by scarcity. The more present you are, the more ordinary you appear. Visibility breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds complacency. Leaders who understand this wield absence as a weapon, strategically withdrawing to make their presence more impactful. Queen Elizabeth I of England mastered this principle. She rarely revealed her intentions or allowed casual access to her court. Her appearances were calculated events, moments that inspired awe and speculation. By limiting exposure, she made every word and gesture carry weight, forcing courtiers and diplomats alike to measure their actions carefully. Similarly, Roman emperors understood the power of controlled visibility by appearing only when necessary and creating a sense of unpredictability. They commanded attention and fear simultaneously. Absence also generates anticipation. People speculate, overestimate your importance, and interpret your silence as meaning. This uncertainty works in your favor, making every action more influential than if it had been delivered in constant proximity. The less predictable your moves, the harder it becomes for rivals to counteract you. Strategic withdrawal is not retreat. It is preparation, leverage, and demonstration of control. Leaders who make themselves too available invite scrutiny, criticism, and challenges. Those who create a controlled distance foster respect, authority, and influence that extends beyond their immediate presence. By mastering the art of absence, you transform scarcity into power. People learn to value your contributions, anticipate your actions, and respect your authority. The world tends to overlook the constant, but it never forgets the rare. Withdraw wisely, and your influence grows not by what you do every day, but by what you choose to reveal. And when you choose to reveal it, reputation is the currency of power. Once it is damaged, all other forms of strength, wealth, skill, influence can crumble. Those who understand this protect and manipulate their image with the same rigor they use to plan battles or political moves. Catherine de' Medici, the Queen of France, carefully controlled how she was perceived at court. Every action, every alliance, and every public appearance was calculated to project authority and cunning. Roman generals too understood that victories were not enough. The perception of virtue, discipline, and invincibility was essential to maintain loyalty and intimidate rivals. A tarnished image invites attacks and undermines alliances regardless of actual competence. Guarding reputation is not passive, it is active management. False rumors, misinterpretations, and even minor slights must be addressed decisively. Those who ignore threats to their image find that enemies exploit even small cracks, turning perception against them. Conversely, those who maintain a formidable reputation can control situations with subtlety. Allies obey, rivals hesitate, and adversaries overestimate your power simply because they fear the consequences of challenging it. Reputation also extends beyond fear. It is a lens through which others interpret every action, every word, every decision. A well-crafted image can intimidate without confrontation, inspire loyalty without demands, and silence critics before they speak. Power is fragile when perception falters. By guarding your reputation relentlessly, you ensure that influence, authority, and fear remain intact. Those who neglect this vital aspect of strategy may possess resources or strength, but they are exposed, vulnerable to manipulation, betrayal, and downfall. In the realm of power, perception is often the decisive weapon, and protecting it is non-negotiable. Music logic can be countered. Emotions can be manipulated. Those who rise to power know that decisions are rarely made purely through reason. Fear, desire, pride, and envy drive human behavior far more reliably than argument or evidence. Mastery over these emotions allows leaders to bend others to their will without force. Cleopatra of Egypt understood this principle intimately. She cultivated allure, charisma, and subtle gestures that captivated rulers and generals alike, making them allies or instruments without the need for overt coercion. Roman orators like Cicero often swayed entire assemblies by appealing to fear of disorder or the pride of Rome, knowing that rational debate alone could never command such obedience. Emotion bypasses resistance. When people act from fear, greed, love, or vanity, they do not question their choices. They act instinctively. Skilled leaders exploit these impulses to achieve goals that would be impossible through logic or fairness alone. A carefully timed threat, a promise of glory, or the illusion of affection can move masses and elites alike. Manipulating emotions is subtle yet decisive. It allows influence to take root without leaving visible scars. By understanding and directing the emotional currents around them, leaders shape reality itself. Allies act with zeal. Rivals hesitate and crowds follow without question. Power rarely bends to reason. It bends to perception and sentiment. Those who learn to move hearts, to provoke envy, awe, or fear, hold the invisible levers of influence. Logic can be debated, but emotion can be mastered, and mastery over it becomes an unstoppable tool of domination. Predictability is vulnerability. When others can anticipate your moves, they can counter them. The most effective leaders maintain an aura of uncertainty, keeping allies and rivals alike off balance. By hiding intentions and creating unpredictability, they control the pace and outcome of events. The Medici rulers of Florence excelled at this. They frequently shifted alliances, granting favors one day and withdrawing them the next, ensuring that no one could take their loyalty for granted. Their unpredictability forced nobles to remain vigilant, cautious, and reliant on the Medici for security and advantage. Roman emperors used similar tactics, keeping their generals and senators unsure of their next actions, ensuring obedience through uncertainty. Being in the dark creates dependence. People cannot prepare for what they cannot see. Fear of the unknown becomes leverage, and uncertainty amplifies your power. Even a small gesture or unexpected decision can be magnified into influence if those around you cannot predict or explain it. Strategic ambiguity also prevents rivals from forming coherent plans. The less they understand your motives, the more they act reactively, giving you the advantage. Silence, misdirection, and carefully timed appearances are tools to cultivate this state. Those who are predictable are controlled by others. Those who remain mysterious control others. By keeping intentions hidden, reactions uncertain, and moves deliberate yet obscure, you create a field where influence flows naturally toward you. The unknown is a weapon, and those who wield it strategically are always a step ahead in the game of power. Power is as much about when you act as how you act. Even the most brilliant strategy fails if executed too early or too late. Those who dominate understand the rhythms of events, the moods of people, and the currents of opportunity, and they strike precisely when the moment favors them. Julius Caesar, for example, crossed the Rubicon not at random but at the exact moment when Rome's political chaos could be exploited. His timing turned what might have been an act of rebellion into an unstoppable march towards supremacy. Similarly, Napoleon often delayed or accelerated campaigns based on seasonal, political, and psychological conditions, ensuring that his opponents were always reacting, never initiating. Timing is also psychological. Leaders who act too quickly appear rash. Those who hesitate appear weak. The mastery of timing allows one to create anticipation, heighten fear, or magnify respect. Decisions made with perfect timing seem inevitable in retrospect, giving the impression of prescience and control. This principle extends beyond battles and politics. In every interaction, negotiation, or alliance, the moment you choose to speak, strike, or withdraw determine the outcome. Patience combined with calculated action magnifies influence and turns ordinary moves into decisive victories. Those who ignore timing find their plans thwarted, their power undermined, and their rivals ahead. Those who master it bend events to their will. Understanding when to act, when to wait, and when to withdraw transforms strategy from guesswork into domination. In the game of power, timing is not incidental. It is everything. Words can be debated, deeds cannot. Those who rely on persuasion alone leave themselves vulnerable to doubt, resistance, and manipulation. Power is secured by visible results, decisive action, and the demonstration of capability, not by endless reasoning or promises. Alexander the Great understood this principle. He did not merely argue his right to rule, he led armies across continents, conquered kingdoms, and displayed the results of his ambition. His actions silenced critics and forced admiration, turning doubters into allies and fear into obedience. Similarly, Roman generals demonstrated their authority through victories on the battlefield and the spoils of conquest, leaving no room for debate about their competence. Actions carry weight that words never can. A leader who accomplishes what others claim is impossible creates an aura of inevitability. Even the most vocal detractors are forced to acknowledge the power of results. Every decisive move communicates authority, resolve, and skill more effectively than rhetoric ever could. This principle extends to every arena of influence. Policies, alliances, and strategies are proven through implementation, not discussion. Waiting to persuade through argument alone allows rivals to act first and shape perception in their favor. The world respects those who deliver, not those who lecture. To dominate, make your victories visible, your decisions final, and your competence undeniable. Let your opponents argue, debate, and second guesses, while your actions carve reality in your favor. Influence is not given to the persuasive. It is seized by those who act decisively and demonstrate power through results. Associations determine perception, influence, and survival. Those who align with the unlucky, the weak, or the unstable inherit their misfortune. Power is contagious, but so is vulnerability. Savvy leaders choose allies carefully, surrounding themselves with competence, loyalty, and foresight. King Louis I of France exemplified this principle. He avoided alliances that could compromise his position, choosing partners who strengthened his rule and discarding those whose failures or instability might tarnish his authority. Roman emperors exercised similar caution, distancing themselves from generals and senators whose ambitions or recklessness threatened the stability of the empire. Unstable or unlucky individuals not only fail when called upon, but also invite risk through association. Their missteps reflect on you, undermine plans, and can trigger cascading failures. In contrast, strategic alliances with capable, reliable figures amplify your reach and consolidate influence. Carefully chosen companions act as extensions of your power, while poorly chosen ones become liabilities. Beyond alliances, this principle applies to reputation and perception. Those who associate with failure or chaos are judged accordingly, even if they themselves are competent. Wise leaders maintain control over the narrative of their environment, ensuring that only capable, reliable individuals are seen near them. To navigate power successfully, cultivate relationships deliberately, align with those whose success reinforces your authority, and distance yourself from those whose instability could threaten it. Strength is reinforced by association, weakness amplified by it. Choosing wisely who stands beside you can determine whether your influence grows unchallenged or collapses under preventable misfortune. True power lies not in being unpredictable, but in shaping the choices of others. People believe they are acting freely, yet their decisions can be guided by subtle manipulation. By controlling the options available, a leader ensures that every path leads back to their advantage. The Medici family of Florence perfected this principle. They presented nobles and merchants with seemingly independent choices, but each option reinforced Medici dominance. Whether in politics, commerce, or marriage alliances, the outcomes were orchestrated to secure loyalty and dependency while giving the illusion of freedom. Roman leaders employed similar tactics. Senators and generals were allowed to debate, argue, and plan, but all viable options ultimately served the emperor's goals. By limiting choices strategically, a leader removes the risk of genuine rebellion. Even rivals who believe they are asserting influence are maneuvered into decisions that strengthen your position. This principle extends to negotiation, warfare, and governance. The victor is rarely the one with brute force alone, but the one who frames the battlefield so that every action favors them. The psychology behind this is simple but powerful. Humans prefer the illusion of control over complete submission, and those who provide that illusion gain loyalty, compliance, or at least acquiescence. Present options that appear equal, desirable, or unavoidable. And people will act within the boundaries you define, thinking they're making independent choices while moving along your path. Control through options is subtle, but devastating. It does not require intimidation, persuasion, or confrontation. It requires understanding human desire and fear and using them to set the terms of engagement. Leaders who master this create a reality where others are effectively trapped by their own decisions, while the architect of those decisions consolidates power quietly and decisively. In the game of influence, the appearance of freedom is as potent as chains. Those who shape the choices of others win without open conflict, and every move made under their guidance becomes a victory. Brutal as it may sound, the path to control is often paved with calculated gestures of trust and generosity. People are naturally suspicious, and a single act of honesty or benevolence can disarm their defenses, making them more vulnerable to influence. The most powerful leaders have understood that well-placed truth or kindness is a weapon, precisely because it is unexpected. King Henry V of France frequently employed this tactic by showing generosity to certain nobles or admitting faults at strategic moments. He lulled rivals into complacency only to maneuver decisively when the opportunity arose. Similarly, Roman generals occasionally granted clemency to defeated enemies, creating the illusion of mercy while ensuring that those who survived were indebted or dependent, ultimately strengthening their own position. The effect of selective honesty is psychological. When people believe they are dealing with a straightforward or benevolent figure, they lower their guard. Trust opens doors to influence that force could never achieve. Generosity, carefully timed and measured, can make opponents question their assumptions, allies more loyal, and observers more impressed. It creates confusion and admiration simultaneously, two forces that work in favor of the strategist. Yet the key is precision. Overuse of honesty or generosity undermines the tactic, and insincerity is easily detected. The greatest leaders wield these tools sparingly, using them to misdirect, to negotiate, or to mask ulterior motives. A single act of kindness can pave the way for a decisive conquest of influence without overt confrontation. Power often thrives in the mind rather than on the battlefield. By mastering selective honesty and generosity, a leader shapes perceptions, manipulates emotions, and secures advantage without exposing vulnerability. Trust becomes a tool and gratitude a lever. Those who underestimate the subtlety of such tactics often find themselves blindsided, while those who employ them skillfully bend others to their will with apparent ease. People are motivated primarily by their own gain. Appeals to kindness, loyalty, or morality are fragile tools. They can be ignored, questioned, or exploited. The most effective leaders understand that self-interest is the strongest lever of influence. Align your goals with the desires of others, and they will act on your behalf without coercion. Catherine de' Medici of France used this principle expertly. She secured alliances not through promises of virtue or friendship, but by appealing to the ambitions and fears of the nobles around her. Every favor, every policy, every strategic marriage offered clear advantage to those who complied, ensuring that loyalty was motivated by gain rather than gratitude. Similarly, Roman commanders and statesmen often appealed to soldiers' personal rewards, plunder, promotions, or political favor, rather than expecting devotion to abstract ideals. Morality and gratitude are fleeting. Self-interest endures. When people see that assisting you benefits them directly, they act decisively and reliably. Conversely, appeals to loyalty or ethics are unpredictable. Today's friend may be tomorrow's enemy if circumstances shift. By framing cooperation in terms of advantage, a leader harnesses ambition and fear simultaneously, directing energy without exposing themselves to betrayal. This strategy extends beyond politics and war. Every negotiation, alliance, or engagement can be structured so that the other party gains more by aligning with you than opposing you. Desire becomes a leash, ambition becomes compliance. The key is clarity. The benefit must be tangible and immediately understandable, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. Power flows to those who exploit this truth. Leaders who rely on morality or gratitude are vulnerable, while those who appeal to self-interest control outcomes predictably and efficiently. By mastering the calculation of advantage, influence is secured, rivals are neutralized, and followers act as if they are choosing freely, even as every choice strengthens your dominance. In the harsh reality of power, human desire is the ultimate weapon, and those who understand it wield authority effortlessly, bending others to their will without visible force. Knowledge is power, and the most effective way to maintain it is to gather intelligence from every source, including those closest to you. A leader who reveals too little and listens carefully can anticipate threats, manipulate rivals, and control outcomes. Often the people who appear loyal are the most useful when treated as sources of information rather than allies. King Louis I of France mastered this art. He cultivated an appearance of friendship and alliance with nobles and foreign powers, while maintaining a network of informants who reported every whisper, every misstep, and every hidden ambition. This intelligence allowed him to strike decisively, often before rivals even realized they were under threat. Roman generals and senators also employed spies and advisors to report on allies and enemies alike, ensuring that decisions were based on facts rather than assumptions or appearances. The principle is subtle but relentless. By maintaining the facade of friendship, you gain trust and access that others would withhold. People speak freely when they believe they are safe, unaware that their words and actions are being observed and recorded. Every alliance, every conversation becomes an opportunity to gain leverage, anticipate betrayal, or manipulate circumstances in your favor. This strategy extends beyond political courts or battlefields. Any network of influence, whether through advisors, allies, or colleagues, can be a source of intelligence. Observing, questioning, and listening carefully allows a leader to understand not just intentions, but fears, weaknesses, and desires. This knowledge can then be converted into control, influence, or preemptive action. In power, ignorance is fatal. Those who rely solely on appearances or trust without verification are blindsided. Those who gather knowledge relentlessly control the game. By posing as a friend while acting as a spy, a leader ensures that no move goes unnoticed and no threat emerges without warning. Information becomes both shield and sword, and those who wield it decisively bend the world to their will. Power is maintained not by beginnings, but by how decisively one concludes matters. In the world of strategy, leaving loose ends is a fatal mistake. Every unfinished alliance, unresolved conflict, or unpunished betrayal is a seed for future threats. The most effective leaders know that true mastery lies in closure, eliminating uncertainty, consolidating gains, and ensuring that nothing is left to chance. Julius Caesar understood this principle in both politics and warfare. After securing victory over Gaul, he did not merely retreat to Rome expecting loyalty. He reorganized territories, installed trustworthy governors, and neutralized potential rivals before they could challenge his authority. Every decision was calculated to prevent loopholes that could undermine his control. Similarly, Roman emperors like Augustus meticulously managed succession and administration, leaving no opportunity for rivals to exploit gaps in power. They understood that unresolved matters in politics, military command, or public perception could quickly transform into threats. This law is not about paranoia. It is about foresight and discipline. Leaving a threat partially addressed is worse than leaving it untouched. Enemies left alive or unresolved disputes linger in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. A skilled leader acts decisively, closing all avenues for revenge or challenge.